Welcome to Well Since You Asked Me, the podcast where curiosity sparks conversation. In this episode, I sit down with Reggie Hubbard, founder and chief serving officer of Active Peace LLC, to explore the emotional and spiritual liberation of Black men through mindfulness, yoga, and radical self-compassion. Reggie was featured in the May-June issue of Essence magazine. He opens up about how surviving a toxic job led him to create a healing space for Black men across identities. We discuss the pressure to suppress emotions in a world that demands stoicism from Black men, how yoga, rest, and ancestral practices can help transform internalized stress, the power of choosing softness, grace, and community, and how Black men can reclaim vulnerability as a strength and not a weakness. So grab your favorite drink, get comfortable, and let's get into it. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me tonight. I'm so honored to have you in the space and to be able to explore this topic with you. I wanted to know if you wouldn't mind just sharing a little bit about your journey and what inspired you to focus on spiritual well-being, emotional liberation, and what that looks like for you.
Well, thank you for the invitation, and it's great to be here with you, and it's great to share anything from my lived experience because it means that I'm living and something I've done is of interest to someone else. So that's always, as a teacher, that's always good. I didn't start practicing yoga till I turned 40. However, I did grow up in the church. And so spiritual practice and the whole concept of something outside of yourself, something bigger than your ego, and a heart of service towards a clear mind and an open heart is something that I've always practiced. Usually, it began in like the Black Baptist tradition, and it grew up in like a more ecumenical Baptist tradition. Then I got disillusioned with the church in my 20s because it was a little too dogmatic for what I was experiencing as a Black man. Like there were too many rules. Everyone was telling me what to do, and I was like, I was trying to be me. Like, why? Everybody's telling me what to do. I'm going to listen to none of you. I'm going to listen to myself and then try and figure that out. But I started practicing yoga when I turned 40. And it wasn't to become enlightened. It was to not curse out my boss. I was in a horrific job situation with a whole bunch of liberal white ladies who thought they loved Black and brown people until one of them worked with them. And they just kept throwing microaggressions at me left and right. I had worked with them prior, so it was kind of, it was somewhat of a shock when we went from friends to enemies in 6 days because I had worked with them prior to help make their program a success. And I get out there and they change the rules of the goalposts, which many communities always do for us. Like then like that's not what I meant. So I had moved from Washington, D.C., where I'm from, Maryland, to Denver, Colorado, and spent $5,000 that I didn't have to move out there. So I was kind of stuck in this job, right? So we've all been there. And if you haven't, God bless you. But like, I had to figure something out, fam. I had to figure out a way to make this work. And cursing them out and giving them like the double barrel salute wasn't it. So I was like, let me try this yoga and meditation thing. And so I went like twice a day in the morning and in the evening because my job sucked that much. And what I didn't know was happening was that I was gaining this, like through working out physically and with my breath and with my mind, all the stress that I was dealing with in my job. I was actually dealing with levels of stress that I've been carrying my whole life. And I learned through the disciplined practice of yoga, not just the physical, but the mental and the breath work and the spiritual. I learned how to find grace in deep adversity. They fired me via text message 10 months into this job. Text message. And asked me for an exit interview because that's just what entitled silky folks be doing. You know what I mean? And somehow I went from wanting to call them like Richard Pryor's favorite word to when they asked me for the exit interview, like this remarkable wellspring of grace showed up. I was just like, look, y'all know good and hell well, we don't need no exit interview. You know that, right? Like, but I want to thank you. And they're like, for what? Because again, that's how people be doing. I was like, I want to thank you for how poorly you treated me. because you gave me access to deep wisdom through this yoga practice. Like y'all gave me the cheat code with how terrible you were.
Mm.
Thank you. And then when I responded that way, I was like, yo, I'm all in on this, right? Like, how do I go from wanting to blow their face off with my words to being just kind of like, all right, and
Right.
then moving? Like that's a huge shift. So once that happened, I was like, you know what? I'm doing this. I'm all in on this. Like this
Wow.
yoga and meditation thing has allowed me to not just heal my body, but clear my mind
Mm.
from all the toxicity they throw at us who are of color, black.
Right.
Yeah, yeah,
The interesting thing, well, you said a lot of interesting things, but one of the things I picked up on was this concept of grace. And so
yeah,
instead of coming at them with whatever you had grace. And a lot of times we'll think about that we're extending grace to people that treat us poorly. But what I heard from you is you had grace for yourself. And that's the way that you were able to respond in that situation.
hmm
That takes an awful lot to kind of reframe that. And it's not
yeah,
because of you, but it's because of what it's creating inside of me. And that's what I heard from that.
yeah, totally. And so I'm glad you picked up on that because it's what yoga and meditation do. Like sometimes if that's why they call it a practice, because
Hmm.
sometimes you don't want to do it.
Right,
You don't
right.
want to do the physical exercises. You don't want to meditate. You
Mm,
don't want to. But I'm telling you from lived experience, even when you do it, even when you don't want to,
mm,
when life be lifing or someone be showing up or acting crazy, like you've got this wellspring of grace, or you've got like this pool of awesome that you can like
mm.
reach back into and summon like love, courage, or
Right.
and the other thing too is like I could have been like, I'm so stupid. Why did I take this job?
Mm.
No, you took this job because you didn't know that it was like they were Medusa.
Right,
You thought they were just
right,
your friends who you worked with the whole year before. Like you didn't know that they rip off their heads and like they were like bloodsuckers. You didn't know that. So
right.
you you were working on the best information that you had and you
Yes,
end up in a situation that wasn't to your liking. However, you can control how you respond to the situation.
yes.
So that's what the yoga and meditation piece taught me is like, yo, yeah, this kind of sucks. And it's not the end of the story.
Hmm.
It's a
Yeah.
plot twist.
It's a plot twist. I love a plot twist. I'm
Yeah,
a
and all
big
my
fan.
favorite characters, like when the plot twist came, they were just like, all right, you know?
Right. Well, one of the things that you talked about is like we don't want to do it. And
Yeah,
I may be overstepping and making a lot of assumptions. So go ahead and feel free to course correct me.
yeah, go for it.
But when I see a lot of Black men, there's this narrative that, you know, the kindness, the thinking about extending the grace is it counter to strength and
Yeah,
um, yeah, and so that vulnerability piece of like how do you move past that societal shift to reclaiming something that's going to be purposeful for you?
right. So I started with the help of the Kripalu Institute for Yoga and Health, this series of retreats called Permission and Refuge.
Mm,
And the goal of Permission and Refuge is to give black men, however we identify. So we've had like straight thugged out brothers there, like
mhm,
we've had queer and gay couples there.
mhm,
We've had everybody there who identifies as black because racism don't care who you love. Like
mm.
racism
Right.
don't care about anything other than the color of
Hmm.
your skin. And like if a cop in a bad part of town or a good part of town with the wrong skin color comes up on you, he ain't gonna ask you if you gay or you straight. You know what I
Right.
mean? He's gonna,
Right.
like dirt's gonna happen. So
Hmm.
most black men, however we identify, do not have permission to explore themselves and
Right.
a place that's safe enough to do that.
Hmm.
So if you are living in an environment where nothing is safe, nothing is guaranteed,
Yes.
and every time you showed your heart, it was smacked,
Mm.
of course you would think that was weak.
Right.
However,
Right.
in my experience, especially in the healing work that I do, like when it's just us and you are comfortable, number one, like the two amazing things that have happened in the healing work that I do is when I play these gongs or these sound bowls after we've had like a heart conversation, people
Yes.
ugly crying, like, I
Hmm.
don't normally be crying. We're like, shh, enough. You're crying. So what? Like,
Yes.
you emotionally feel comfortable enough to do that, so let it go. Like we've got you.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
normalizing the expression of emotion
Mm.
because emotions aren't gendered, emotions are human. Like we have been conditioned as people, black men specifically, that showing emotion is soft or weak. No, they want you to think that so that you're in constant shock, you're in constant
Mm.
survival mode. Like, so once you realize that you don't have to like wear the oppressor's change and that you can be emotional and you can be free and you can share fully from the heart, that's liberation.
Wow. 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 That was deep. That was very deep. Earlier this month we had talked about women that are survivors of domestic violence, and one of the things that the two ladies talked about was having conversations with teenagers,
Hmm.
men and boys and girls,
Hmm.
and helping them to explore communication and understanding themselves. And so, what
Right.
I'm hearing, and I know that you do a lot of work with youth, but what I'm
Yep.
hearing is that backing that up to when we're coming, we're raising these boys, we're raising these girls to give them a sense of self so that they're not identified by societal norms. And so, can you talk to me a little bit about the work that you do with
Mhm.
youth and trying to get them to explore who they are and not who someone wants them to be?
Yeah, I mean, I taught a bunch of youth last week. It was actually kind of amazing. I told
Mm.
them, I was like, they're like, oh, we're so honored that you came to be with us. I was like, look, I spend so much time with adults. They are so boring, right? You know what I mean? I'd rather kick it with y'all. You know what I mean? I'm actually more honored that you want me to talk to you because you think I
Mhm.
got something to say, right? You know what I mean? Like, so thank you for letting me be with you. So two things that those youth they were so honest and so heartfelt and like
Mm.
the questions that they did their homework like they were like in this podcast you said this. I'm like, you listen to that, you know what I mean? So like
Yeah.
they were super into and respectful of my time, and so like I just gave them a whole bunch of vulnerability and knowledge bombs, and one of them they were just like, Mr. Hubbard, I'm Reggie. Reggie, how can we, you talk a lot about emotional vulnerability, you talk a lot about this, that, or the other. Like, how do we get past all of our hurt and sorrow?
Yes.
And I'm like, you don't get past it.
Mm. Okay.
You get through it.
Ooh. Yes.
And you get through it with an open heart,
Mm.
with grace for yourself, for allowing the feelings to come, because when you let them come, guess what happens? They also
Mm.
go.
Mm. Yes.
Like, think of the energy that you spend pressing something down. You don't think about that. You just get into the habit. But
Right.
like if something comes up, it's not meant to be stifled. It's meant to be expressed. Like you may have to be kind of in meditation terms, they call it titrate, right? So if something comes up and it's overwhelming, you may need to like shift a little bit, or you may need to temper the emotion a bit. But to pretend like it's not there is delusion.
Hmm.
And when you dilute, when you perpetuate a lie, that creates unsettling in your subconscious.
Right. Right.
So when I teach these young people, it's okay to have emotion. It's okay to be upset when something bad happens to you.
Yes.
What's not okay is pretending like you're okay with it. It's okay
Mhm.
not to be okay. Use your words and or find techniques to give you the peace to work through it.
Right.
As
Right.
opposed to I'm fine, you ain't. None of us are fine. We've been through a pandemic, you know what I mean? And that affected all people.
Right.
Like hundreds of thousands of people passed away during the pandemic.
Yes.
Like our political system is crazy. Like there's been untold loss and lot. Like it's okay not to be okay. None of
Right.
us are okay if we're being honest about it. But if we're being honest about it, that's when we can work with it. If you're lying about it, you're just caught up in a cycle and you're going to make yourself dizzy emotionally and spiritually. So if you can teach youth, which I try to, that it's okay to have emotional, have mature responses to emotional
Mm-hmm.
situations, to use your words as opposed to pretending I'm fine, like being like I'm not okay and like I feel tension in my chest or my throat and here's how I'm, like
Hmm.
teaching them the deeper wisdom of what the body is telling you as opposed to the programming that would give like you're fine, shrug it off, you'll be okay,
Right.
right? Giving them those
Mm.
tools now, that's revolutionary.
Yes, it is.
And as an activist, I probably shouldn't tell my secrets, but it's kind of like this: like, if I can spend a 30-minute session with youth and give them wisdom learned from my 50 years of life,
Mhm.
imagine what they can do from 15 on,
Mm. Beautiful.
right? They don't have to go through the 10-year dark night of the soul that I went through. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like the wisdom that I have has been earned.
Hmm. Yeah. You
Yeah,
said a couple of things, and I believe that I read that you are a political strategist. So
yeah.
that's true. You said a couple of things that really resonated with me. You said something about the oppression of chains, and
Mm,
then we talk about societal norms and narratives that are
yeah.
assigned to us. The we talk and we collectively talk about systemic racism.
Mm.
And one of the things that I have explored with several guests is backing up conversations. And so a lot of times we look at social media, we talk about the news, and they want to have the conversation in the middle of
Oh,
the
sure,
narrative.
sure, 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 sure. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And so I'm thinking about, arming our youth with these tools that are going to help them navigate through this world that we have. We
Think
also
of
think
what they've been through in their 17 years.
a lot, yes.
Right, right.
And it's going to continue because there appears to be this deliberate attempt to make sure that people of color do not recognize their greatness and do not live in that greatness.
Yeah, not on my watch.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. I think it's so
Yeah,
important the
I
work
didn't
that you're
survive a
doing.
stroke for that. Uh-uh.
Yeah, and so let's talk a little bit about how that also informed, if you don't mind, how that
Yeah,
also
sure.
informed your practice and how you're showing up in the world.
Yeah, I am. So for those of you who are newer to me, I am on April 1st, 2024. I suffered a stroke in Columbia, South Carolina, on the way to a friend's wedding.
Mm,
And by God's grace and the ancestor smiles, like I made it through, right? I knew I was having a stroke. I had the awareness to know I was having a stroke. I had insurance through the Affordable Care Act,
mm,
which saved not only my life, but my financial life. There are a lot of people who are like, "Oh, I'll get to it later. I'll get to it later," and I get to it now because like
hmm.
life be life. And um, the stroke took away motor ability in my left leg, so I had to learn how to walk again in the past year.
Hmm.
The stroke also revealed a hypertensive diagnosis. It revealed a
Hmm.
diabetic diagnosis, and it revealed just paralysis, right? Because of the damage to where the stroke impacted my brain. So my practice has evolved because I went from being perfectly able-bodied to disabled overnight, or
Hmm.
differently abled overnight.
Hmm.
And you want to talk about a head trip,
Right.
right? So on Easter Sunday, 2024, I'm in my family church in Southern Virginia. Walking around, everything's fine, everything's fine. Easter Monday at 4:30 in the morning, like I had a stroke that almost took me out. So my practice, in the moment when the stroke's going on, I had the awareness, like, oh God, like I'm having a stroke. What? Like this
Mhm.
sucks. But oh, I'm in South Carolina, where and so I started being like aware. My leg had gone out, so I'm like, I need the help of my girlfriend who's luckily asleep in the other room. So how do I get her attention without freaking her out? Then I was just like, okay, how do I calm myself before we go to the hospital? So even before we left the hotel room, I started playing sound.
Did you?
I would just play for about a minute just because she's like, now I was like, I have to pray before I go. Like, I'm in the middle. This is a life or death situation, So I would play. Then we packed up the hotel and went to the emergency room. I walked in on my own power, and then I would imagine an hour later, like my blood pressure spiked to 285 over 160, something crazy. So when I tell folks that I touched death's door, I'm not lying to you. Like, why would I lie about that? Like, I'm not no damn actor. Like, I'm not trying to win an Academy Award. That's what the fuck happened. So, like, even to survive the stroke, doctor the next day comes in, the neurologist. It was so funny because, I didn't really know what was going on. And I thought I was going to be able to leave. He was like, Mr. Hubbard, there is zero chance of you leaving here today.
Yeah.
I was like, damn. Zero? Zero. Ooh. Huh. So started playing sound because I was like, if I have zero chance of leaving here, something's going down. And then the next day they come in, they start being like, you had a parietal lobe stroke and this low, all this other and all these diagnoses. They would say it, and I was like, okay.
So you brought it with you. You brought
That
your,
sound with me.
yeah.
And was playing through the diagnosis, playing when I needed to calm down because I
Hmm.
had to stabilize enough for them to release me. And then when they would, after release, we still had to get from South Carolina to Washington. That's 7 hours, eight
Yes.
hours.
Wow.
So I had to be so peaceful
Mm.
to navigate an interstate drive in serious but stable condition.
Hmm.
That is the deepest meditative and prayer practice of my life.
That's amazing. And, thank you so much for bringing this sound because we live in a world where we're inundated with noise from
Absolutely.
everywhere. And so that you brought that in, it helped you to get clarity and to peace. What other roles do sound and silence play in your life and in your practice?
Well, as someone with a brain injury, so strokes are nothing nice. It's like a bull in a china shop. And
Hmm.
after the stroke, what can happen is that the brain gets overstimulated and
Yes.
you can have like flashes or like you just get migraine headaches, or if they're like sharp noises, it can set off like a whole bunch of stuff in your head. So for me, if I was ever like overstimulated, like I
Mhm.
would be in low light. So I would essentially cut off the lights wherever I was at and just play, close my eyes and play.
And it centers you.
These vibrations calm the brain.
Wow. That's interesting.
When the brain is calm, the mind can focus on healing itself.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
Well, it's the truth, right? And so everything that you hear is a neurological impulse. So if you hear something that's like rah 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 rah,
Uh-huh.
imagine like what that's doing to your nerves. Whereas if you spend 30 minutes with this thing,
Mm.
your nerves are just like. So as a spiritual practice, not
Yes.
only did I play this in the hospital for myself, but my nurses would come in and ask me to play for them. My doctors would come in and ask me to play for them because they were just like, in this place of chaos, you're bringing peace here. And I was like, I can't heal in chaos. I have to heal in peace. And this sound brings me peace.
That is amazing. I love to hear that. My son has he's neurodivergent, and so he
Okay.
may something like that. I never thought about that. So I'm going to ask you a question. You talked
Yeah,
about your break with the Baptist church.
right.
Are you able to find your way back, or have you found what you need through your practice, meditation, yoga?
Both and.
Uh-huh.
So I remember I, one time at the train station, not that far from where I live, I was taking the train to Washington, D.C., and this guy comes up to me and he, I don't even really remember why he came up to me, but it was whatever. He came up to me in like an evangelical way, like I'm gonna try and
Mm,
save your soul today.
sure. Uh-huh.
And I told him I was like, I grew up in the church, and I was baptized and
Mm,
all those things, but I'm a yoga and meditation teacher now,
mm.
and also a yoga and meditation practitioner. And he was like, "Oh, I don't know about that." I was like, "Before you say anything else, let me say this. Do you remember when the Apostle Paul talked about be ye not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind?"
Mm, mm. Okay.
Meditation. And my meditation practice has made me a better Christian.
Wow.
My yoga practice has made me a better Christian. My Buddhist practice has made me a better yogi.
Interesting. Very
So all
interesting.
of these disciplines have
Hmm.
reinforced what I've learned, right? It's not either or. Like when you practice
Mm.
yoga, you're not worshiping deities. Like you're celebrating the infinite faces of God.
That is deep. Yes. That was great.
Right.
Thank you for sharing that.
And
That
so
was
like
awesome. Yes.
in that context, um, it has made me more service oriented,
Mm,
more loving,
mm.
more compassionate. And the other thing I said to this guy is like, the fruits of the spirit are love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Yoga and meditation have given me all of these things in abundance, not the dogmatic teachings of your denomination.
Mm. Interesting.
Yeah, yeah. So it's like, thank you for being concerned about my soul, but take care of yours first, brother.
Yeah, I like the way the convergence of all of those things have supported what you're doing and enhanced the person that you want to be and what you're contributing out to the world.
Yeah.
We're almost a little out of time, which I knew this was
Okay.
going to happen. It always happens. I always have such interesting conversations. So we're talking about Black male mental health, spiritual well-being,
Yeah.
emotional support. Are there things that you would like, or anything that you would like to say to Black men that are struggling with this, and how they can, I don't know, maybe just like gently enter into this world? Because I see the benefit. I know it. I've practiced yoga, I don't know, for a long, long time.
Right.
But for a Black men that may have just a different experience, or what they think may be about. Do you have any suggestions or anything?
Yeah, the beautiful thing about the world, the time that we live in now, is that you're not beholden to geography, right? Like you can find people like me on social media or on YouTube or something. There,
Mm-hmm.
there are black male yogis of lineage and heft that are out there doing it, and you can see what yoga looks like for us. You know what I mean? Because I
Right.
remember when a friend of mine, she was like, "Reggie, you should practice yoga," and she was like a skinny white woman, and I was this guy, ain't no skinny white chick. Why would I do that? You know what I mean? And I said that to, and so guess who I called first when I started practicing yoga? I was like, "You was right."
Mm.
But I didn't see myself into it. You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
part of the reason that I'm so out loud in my yoga practice and generous with my stories is I want black men to see them in the practice.
Yes.
That's why I got like Prince and like Jimi Hendrix and all this other
Mm-hmm.
stuff in my studio. That's why I wear Adidas. You know what I mean? My hair is kind of like crazy. I want you to see you in this practice. Because if you see you, you might consider. And the other thing I would say is that do not be dismissive of something you don't understand. Be curious.
Mm-hmm.
right? And the difference between dismissive and curiosity is you can still pick something up curiously and then put it down. But if you're dismissive, you might be like walking past the cure because you're stuck in your skepticism.
And thank you for that. I know that you have some events that are coming up and some events that are ongoing. I'm going to share those with the listeners. But is there anything that that's coming up that maybe we should talk about right now?
Yeah, permission and refuge, the black male healing work that I do, there are three more retreats this year, and that can be found on Kripalu's webpage. But permission and refuge, if you look up permission and refuge on Google, it goes to it goes to the website, and what happens there is that a lot brothers sit in circles and we talk and we listen to music and we just have conversations. We walk on the land, we do hikes. It's good food, and the most important part I'd say is that like it's for all income levels. All you got to do is get to
Mhm.
Massachusetts. Like once you get there, you're taken care of. You know what I mean? Like because I believe that you got to invest in your well-being. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like if you show initiative, we'll take care of the rest.
Mhm.
Like if something is just given to somebody, they rarely appreciate it.
Mhm. But they
So
have
that's
to.
one thing. And activepeaceyoga.com is where I can be found, and I'm always doing something online because that's the quickest way to the people.
Yes. Well, thank you for sharing. Like I said, I'll share those out in the show notes. We're almost out of time, so I'm going to end this by first thanking you so much for taking time.
Yeah.
You're amazing. But I'm going to ask you a question. I always do this at the
Mm,
end, just ask a random question.
go for it.
So, Shador Sanders, I don't know if you follow football and you saw the draft. One of the things that people took away from that is the grace and the joy that he retained. What are your thoughts on that? Any
Yeah.
thoughts at all on
Well,
the
since you
impact?
asked me,
Yeah.
yeah, I listen. It's never enough for this culture for a black man. You know what I mean? They're
Mhm.
always going to try and change the rules. They're always going to say you're too this, you're too that. And so for him to maintain his dignity and respect
Mm,
when they were trying to assail his character or teach him like whatever that was,
right.
like for him to maintain dignity and respect and confidence in his ability, that's unshakable.
Hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
So like I was impressed by that and also just for the conversation that it brought out. Like
Hmm.
for whatever reason, many people in these United States refuse to see racism even though it's blatantly in their face. I mean, the
Right.
president of the United States is attacking the Black Culture Museum. I live in Washington, so like
Hmm.
we see it all the time.
Right.
So in an environment where the government is attacking black people again,
Yes.
um, to have the conversation about you see it now.
Hmm.
Some people are seeing it now.
Some people are.
Now, and it'll never be critical mass, but I mean, it's not the degree that we deserve. But this is where my Buddhist practice helps me. Not everybody's here to get free.
Mm,
Not everybody here in this life is here to get clear.
mm.
So if you're here to get free and get clear, I can rock with you. Like if you stuck in delusion, you can keep that on the other side. You know what I mean? So not everybody's here to get free and clear. So for those of you that do want to get free and clear, let's have a conversation about race. Let's have a conversation about the necessity of black men to keep our dignity in a society that is seeking to destroy us.
It's beautiful. That is beautiful. Thank you again so much. I'm so honored to have this conversation
Thanks
with
for reaching
you.
out.
For sure, I will keep following you. I'll put everything in the show notes. Everybody reach out. You are amazing, and I hope that your life continues to be filled with joy and peace.
May it be so, and so with you.
Thank you.
That's a wrap for this episode of Well Since You Asked Me. I hope this conversation left you with something to think about, something to question, and maybe even something to share. This conversation is part of a larger movement to amplify healing in our communities. If you would like to learn more, join Reggie and his team for a week-long virtual seminar amplifying BIPOC voices in healing spaces at Amplify the Voices of the Global Majority, How We Heal. I would like to thank our executive producer, John Dunson, audio and video technician, Ryan Sexton, and graphic designer, Ellen Jacobs. Please be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and spread the word. Until next time, stay curious, stay open, and keep asking the questions that matter. Bye.